So I'm going to name this keyboard sampler. And just add a little comment here. And so the first thing I want to do is get some sounds. So I'm going to use JFXer for this. So I'm going to go to JFXer. And generate some sounds. And you can see it actually saved some of the sounds that I created last time. So I'm gonna, okay, maybe I went a little bit too loud. So I can listen to some of those sounds, or I can make some new sounds. Depending on what you want to do with this, you could use like real music samples or stuff from freesound.org that is like more recordings of things. If you want it to sound like something in particular, I'm just going to kind of make some random sounds and just add some kind of random images with them. So I'll try using random. I might adjust these a little bit. It's a little abrasive. That's kind of nice. Maybe I'll use that for a longer sample. So I'm going to export this. So that's random 3. I should probably give these names so I can kind of remember what they are. So I'm going to go to my downloads folder. And this kind of sounds like a wave sound. So I'll call this wave. Let's choose another random sound. All these sounds are kind of longer. These sounds are all too long, so maybe I'll choose some of the other ones. Let's see. Oh yeah, I could just turn this thing down. Oh, that one's kind of cool. Oops. Clicked on this like little GitHub thing by mistake. Okay, that's a good one. I'll download that one. Sounds kind of like a little laser. So I'll rename this one. JFXer is cool, but it's definitely a little bit limited. The sounds kind of start to sound similar after a while. Oops. Kind of sounds like the cowbell sound from 808. Use that one. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. Rename cowbell. Let me get one more. It's pretty good. It's kind of like a little shaker. So I'll use that. Okay. So I've got some sounds to work with. I'm going to go to my editor and upload these first. So I'm just going to open up the file system over here and go to upload file. And I can click on here and go to downloads. And I can probably select all of these at the same time. I can also drag and drop. So now I have some sounds, and I could put these in a folder as well if I want to organize this a little bit more. I could create a folder called samples, and let's see, can I move this? Oh, I can't move it. Can I pull it into there? I guess I can't actually move these files. Maybe I can rename it samples. Let's see if this works. No, I don't think so. Yeah, that's what I wanted to demonstrate. So let me just delete these and just upload them again. So it doesn't look like I can actually change the folder once they're uploaded. This interface is kind of limited. So that's good to know. So I'm just going to delete these. And so now I'll put them in my samples folder. So I'll upload file here and just upload them again. So that's a little bit better organization. If I had like a lot of samples, then I can collapse this folder and it's a little bit easier to see my file structure. So I've got my samples, now I have to load them. So I'm going to click on sketch.js and then close this. So I need a variable for each one of my sounds, and I just need to declare them first. So I think I've talked about this before, but if I want to declare a bunch of variables at a time, instead of doing one line for each variable, I can use commas and declare them all in one line. So I'm just going to do wave for my wave sound, shaker for my shaker sound. What else did I have? Cowbell and laser. And then in my preload function, I can load all of these sound files. And they're all going to look pretty much the same. So I'm going to say wave for the variable, load sound. And so since I put them in that samples folder, I have to add the samples folder with the slash to my path for the sound, and then the name of the sound that I want to load. So they're all wave files, so it's wave.wave. And then I can just copy this and paste it a couple times and just change the names. So this is shaker and shaker. And this is cowbell and cowbell. And the last one is laser and laser. If you had like a lot of samples, it might be kind of tedious to do this. In which case, we haven't really talked about other data structures, but the thing that you would want to use here is an array or a list of samples. Maybe I'll go over that at some point, but it's not really on the schedule for this semester. But for for, it's not too bad just to use for variables. So we've got our sounds, and now we want to link up playing the sound along with drawing some visuals on the canvas that go along with the sound. And so this is a good time to kind of point out the difference between these two different types of events. So if I want to play a sound, I can use the sound and say .play. And if I want to draw something, obviously I'm going to draw it in the draw loop. But I don't really want to play my sounds in the draw loop, because if I'm playing a sound in the draw loop, it's going to be playing over and over again. So let's say we wanted to use the A key. I'm going to open up keycode.info. Thank you. So if I want to use the A key to play my wave sound, I can use that key code and I can say if if key is down, and use 65 for A. And I'm going to put a little comment here so I remember what key that is. So now I can change the visuals, right? Like I can make the background, maybe since it's a little wave sound, we can set the background to light blue, like the ocean. And I can also play my sound. So I can say wave.play. But the thing that we have to keep in mind here is that inside my draw function, this is always running, re-rendering the graphics over and over again in order to create animations and other things like that. So if I write my code this way, this wave sound is just going to be triggered every frame that my program's running, and so it's never going to really play the sound correctly. So if we play this, so it plays, but it sounds really glitchy, right? And that's because it's playing over and over itself. It has probably restart as the default. So that's why you hear it, but it sounds like it's kind of glitching out. So what I want to do instead, there's a couple different ways I can approach this. I could like ask if the sound is already playing and stuff like that. But an easier way to do this is just to separate the visuals from the interaction. And I can do that using my key pressed function. So instead of doing the visuals and the sound inside the draw function, I can use the key press function to play the sound. And then I can use draw to draw the visuals that I want to go along with that sound. So for my wave, when I hit the key, I want to ask if key code equals 65. So again, this is the A key. And I could use the keys down here as well. There's multiple different ways to do this, but if I use the key code, I know that that's the last key that I pressed. So that might be a better approach here if I'm hitting like a bunch of keys at the same time or something like that. So then I can move my wave.play. Oops. So I'm going to cut and paste. So now it's just going to play the wave sound once when I hit the key, but as long as I hold the key down, we will still see the visual. So I'm going to save this. And remember, I have to click on the canvas to focus the canvas to record the keystrokes. And now if I hit A, now I get the sample once. And if I hold the key, I get I get the sample once and I get the blue color the whole time. So what if I want the color to stay even after I release the key, right? Because the sample is still playing. So remember, we looked at the reference for sound on Monday. It's in one of the libraries. So if we go to libraries and go to P5 sound, we can see everything that's related to our sound file here. And one of the things that it'll tell us is whether the sound is playing or not. And so we can actually use if the sound is playing to determine if we want to draw something different on the screen. So instead of asking in my draw function if the key is down, let's remove this. Now what I can say instead is if wave.is playing. And so now it'll change my background to blue as long as that wave sound is playing, regardless of what I'm doing with my keyboard. So I'm basing the visuals on the sound rather than the interaction. So I kind of am separating the two. So now I get that blue color the whole time that the sound plays. And as soon as the sound stops playing, that color goes away. And I can still play multiple versions of the sample or multiple hits on the sample. And it's the default sustain mode, so it plays over itself. But as long as one of those samples is playing, I get that blue background. Okay, so we'll do a couple more examples. Any questions so far on this setup? All right, so let's do another one we'll draw another part of our scene. I guess I'll do the shaker next. So I can just add a new key for my shaker. So if I want to use S for the shaker, that's 83. So I'll say if key code equals 83. And let's put an S right here, say shaker.play. And I could like get an image of a shaker or draw a sophisticated looking shaker, but I'm not gonna spend too much time on this. I'm just gonna draw like a shape just to add to the scene. So I'm gonna say if shaker dot is playing, then let's just draw a circle. So I'll say ellipse. Let's give it a fill. So I'll do a fill. I'll do gold, no stroke, and I'll do an ellipse. I'll just put it. I guess I could put it like. Well, I'll just put it in one place. I'll put it in the right top corner. So I'll put it at like x is 300, y is 50, size is 50. Okay, so I now have A, S. Make it a little bit bigger. Okay, so that's kind of cool, but it doesn't really do anything. It just like appears and then goes away, right? So let's use another sound, maybe our cowbell. Actually, let's use our laser because that one's a little bit longer. And let's make it animate a little bit. So we'll use some of the animation code that we learned a few weeks ago to animate this one a little bit. So say if key code, let's just keep going across. So let's go to D, 68. Key code equals 68. We will do laser.play. Okay, so we've got our new sample to play. And then in draw, we can say if laser.is playing, let's just put a big red rectangle in the middle of the screen. It's going to be kind of goofy, but whatever. So I'll say if, or I already said if. I'll say fill is red and no stroke. And I'll just draw a rectangle. Let's turn on rect mode center so we don't have to center it. And I'll draw a rectangle at width over 2, height over 2, so it'll be in the middle of the canvas. And I'll just do, so let's just start with like 100 by 100. Okay, so now if I hit D, I just get the basic rectangle. But if I want to do like an animation, I can animate, I mean, I can really animate anything I want to, just like our previous animations, the size, the color, position, anything, anything with a number I can animate. But let's just animate the size just to keep it simple. So what I'll do actually is create a variable that I can use to animate. So let's say variable laser size, and we'll set it equal to 100. And so we'll say as long as it's playing, so let's use the laser size for the size of the rectangle. I'll make this a little bit bigger. And as long as it's playing, let's increase the laser size. So let's say laser size plus equals, let's do like 2, so it'll go a little bit fast. So now if I hit D, it's going to keep growing and growing. And so we can add stuff to control the animation a little bit. Like I could say, every time we hit the key code, let's set it back to 0, or 100. So let's say laser size equals 100. So now it goes back to the beginning every time I hit the key. So that's one way I could do it. I could also just put something in here. So let's take this out for a second. I could put something in here that says if laser size is greater than, say, 200, laser size equals 100. So that way it just resets if it gets too big. So that could be another way to do it. So that's a couple different options. So it's pretty easy to create a little animation. You could also use the transformation stuff like scaling, rotating, uh, translation. You could use different filters. You could use a lot of stuff to create those animations. Let's see, we have one more sample. So let's take our cowbell. This might be too short, but we can use a different sample if it's not long enough. So let's get our cowbell. So let's say if key code equals ASDF, F is 70. This is our cowbell. Say cowbell.play. And so for this one, I want to use a property of the sound to create the animation, so it's tied to the sound. And so for this one, I'll say if cowbell is playing. So we need another shape to draw. We already have a circle and a square. What else could we draw? I'll just draw another circle. Let's get a plumb circle. And I guess I'm not using strokes anywhere, so I don't really need this, or we could actually use a stroke for this. Maybe that would be kind of cool. Let's do a stroke plumb and no fill for this one. And stroke weights, do like 4, a little bit bigger. And let's draw an ellipse. And so let's draw the ellipse in the middle of the screen as well. And this time, instead of animating the size, let's make the size be based on the loudness of the sound. So in the reference, if I look at my sound file, I can, where is it? Oh, actually, I need something else to do this. Yeah, I need the amplitude. So I need to get the amplitude level of the sound. So this is actually a little bit trickier. And it's a little bit different than stuff that we've seen before, but it's kind of fun. So let's just try it. So this is creating like a specific P5 object, this line of code right here, which gives me the loudness or the amplitude of this sound. So we're basically going to create the same thing here. So amplitude, when it comes to like music or sound, is like how loud the sound is. And so we can use this amplitude function to get the sound that's being played. I don't know if I guess it's for all of the sound. So maybe this will be triggered by other things as well. Let's see. Yeah, because it's just saying amplitude.getLevel, but it doesn't have a specific sample that it's associated with. I wonder if there's a way to do that. Yeah, there's probably a way to do it, but it might be a little bit trickier, so let's just go with it for now. So for this one, we just need a new variable, amplitude. And in setup, we need to create this amplitude. So we're going to say amplitude equals p5.amplitude. And actually, we have to put a new in front of it. That's another thing that we haven't really gone over. But sometimes when you're creating an object, if you're creating like a new instance of that object, you'll see this new keyword there. So you'll see that with some code, just like it looks like right there. So then we can get the level from the amplitude, just like we see here, and then map it to the size of our circle. So let's go down to our cowbell, and we'll say var level equals amplitude dot get level. And then we need to get the size. Oh, actually, I don't want this to be in my key pressed function. I want this to be in my draw loop. So then S for size, we'll say map the level. And so that value is going to be somewhere between 0 and 1. So 0 to 1. And then for the size, let's say like 100 to 300. So then I'll just put S as the size for my ellipse. And so let's see the cowbell. There we go. So it is using the amplitude of the other samples. You can see it's using the laser. So it's kind of combining them. But it's only playing when the cowbell is playing because we have it inside this if cowbell is playing. So you might want to separate those. There's probably a way to get the amplitude of one sample, but I think it's a little bit more complicated. But for a project like this, people might not really notice. Anyway, I think that's enough of an overview of a few different ways you could approach it. So you can make some different animations. You could just draw just a simple shape and have a bunch of different shapes related to different sounds. You could put images in there if you want to use images. Or you can use, components of the sound itself to create the animation. So that's the basic idea. For the assignment, it really just has to be, something basic, or if you have other ideas for taking it in different directions, you can do that. But the main thing here to kind of take away when it comes to like designing a program and writing code is that sometimes you have to kind of separate the visualization from the input. So we're capturing the input in one place, and we are playing sounds based on that input. But then we're doing all the visualization just in the draw loop. And we're using properties of the sound, like whether it's playing and how loud it is. But a lot of times we have to separate the different components of what's happening in our program, specifically in this case, because we don't want to be constantly capturing the feedback or the input from our user, because we don't want to get those like glitchy sounds. And so this is an easy way to only get the input from the user when they press the keys, but have our visualizations happening consistently as our program is running. So when you are creating programs like that, you kind of have to think about what are the different inputs and outputs, and how do they relate to each other. All right. Any questions or anything you guys want me to add to this or try in this sketch? All right. So let me stop.